Hello, and welcome to Heart and...
What?
Wait.
What?
Is this Heart and Hustle?
No.
Wait, what's Rising?
Why don't you tell us?
Hello, and welcome to Dave Campbell's Rising.
Let's
We're not
go.
Heart and Hustle. It's Dave Campbell's Rising from here on out, the newest internet show added to the DCTF lineup. And we are so excited to be the first show at Dave Campbell's Texas Football dedicated to shining the light on Texas high school football prospects.
Texas teams, Texas talents. That's what we're known for. That's what we cover here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and I'm excited to be diving right in each and every month in depth on some of the top players in the Lone Star State.
Oh yeah, and we'll break it down for you here in just a second, but kind of wanted to go over what this show is about. First of all, I'm Mallory Hartley. I should say I am the coordinating producer of recruiting/recruiting analyst here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. My title has changed a lot of different times.
Wearing a lot of different hats right now.
Wearing a lot of different hats, but excited to be here in this
Welcome
new
to the recruiting beat.
role.
Welcome to the recruiting beat. You'll get used to wearing different hats in it.
And here I'm alongside Greg Powers, Big Crute, the director of recruiting at Dave Campbell's Texas Football.
I guess that makes
Crute.
that makes you Little Crute. Lil Crute?
Lil Crute and Big Crute. Tell us what you think in the comments about that, because he doesn't like Big Crute, but I like,
all right with that.
Big Crute. Big Crute.
It's better than some of the other nicknames that we've tossed out there. But I can tell you this, every week we're going to be diving into and featuring one of the top players in the Lone Star State, some big headlines. And one of my favorite segments coming up with Carter Yates, Here's a Guy.
Yeah.
And then shining the spotlight in depth on one team every time we do the show, where we talk about all the prospects or all the top prospects on their team.
Yes.
I'm pretty excited about that. This time,
Yeah.
Port Arthur Memorial.
Port Arthur Memorial. We've got a big show ahead of you today. I've wanted a recruiting show for a very long time. I remember sitting down with Pickle a while ago. Maybe this was 2 years ago.
Executive producer Ashley Pickle.
The executive producer, big dog, Ashley Pickle. And telling her when we first started Women Talking Football, I was like, I really think it would be fun to have a recruiting show. And she was like, yeah, that'd be great. We just don't have the people to be able to do that, you know? But now, as our staff is growing and as we're adding more people, now we're able to sit here, the two of us, and talk about recruiting. And I should mention, too, our wonderful producer in there, Sam Moore, is helping
Thanks, Sam.
helping you hear us. And he actually edited a ton of the videos that you're going to see here today. So big shout out to Sam Moore there. We're super excited that he is a part of our team and gets to actually produce something. So very, very excited.
Let's give the people what they want.
Should we get right into it?
Let's do it.
All right. As Powers mentioned, we're going to start off here with headlines and recruiting buzz news around the Lone Star State. We'll get into an interview. We had a sit-down interview with Flower Mound offensive tackle Drew Evers. Very, very excited to see for you guys to see that full feature there. We'll get into Here's a Guy with Carter Yates. We'll explain more on that later. And then we're going to take a deep dive into Port Arthur Memorial, their program out there. They always seem to have some top-tier prospects.
Definitely this class. This class is loaded.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this class is absolutely loaded. So we'll get into that here. But first, like I said, let's jump right into it. Some headlines that we think are kind of important that you guys should be aware of. So I'll ask you the question after, but I'll kind of set the scene here of what's happened the last couple of weeks at Texas Tech. So Texas Tech football general manager James Blanchard was rumored to be leaving Texas Tech for the general manager role at Notre Dame, because Chow Bowden, the former general manager at Notre Dame, accepted the role at USC. And I think it was kind of set. We don't know what happened behind the scenes there, but I think a lot of people assumed that, hey, Notre Dame could pay. He's probably going to take that role, right?
Yeah.
Then he called an audible and he's like, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay at Texas Tech. And they offered him a 3-year contract extension through 2027, total value being at $1.5 million over the next 3 years. Huge keep, or I don't know how to say it. I'm glad that like it's big for Texas Tech that they were able to keep him there.
I agree 100%. He was the first hire Joey McGuire made when he landed in Lubbock. He landed that job. He'd been working with McGuire at Baylor, so I think that there is a sense of comfortability between those two coaches. I think that McGuire trusts Blanchard on his evaluations about what recruits that they should be recruiting year in and year out. And I think this is the year that you really start to see McGuire's and Blanchard's fingerprints on this Texas Tech roster. This is 100% the talent that they have acquired now in Lubbock. It was probably pretty close to that last year, but I will say definitively this year is the year that you can see that they have left their mark on where they have left their mark on that program. And I think it's important to have some continuity there.
100%.
One, coaches are familiar with the recruiting situation at Texas Tech, especially in Texas, which is their base. It's always been their base underneath of Coach McGuire and really in perpetuity at Texas Tech. But continuity there is important, and I think that the coaches understand in Texas what Tech is now looking for, and that would have changed or at least threw them off course, even if they made a hire from within. That would have took them some time to adjust to as well, to figure out the new director of recruiting or general manager's style of player and how they were going to fit in Lubbock with the roster they already had there. So I think it's great that Tech beat Notre Dame. They were able to show that they can spend to keep a top coach on their staff, but for continuity purposes is why I think it's even bigger for recruiting. Yeah. That's what I think.
Right. Well, and they've been able to sign back-to-back top 30 recruiting classes the past couple of years with James Blanchard there, as well as the #1 overall transfer portal class.
Yeah,
too. They brought in a ton of dogs at a lot of key positions too.
They have a unique strategy there, and why I said I think it's important, like we'll see this year, is it's going to take some time for that to play out. They take some chances on some players or find some players that other schools aren't necessarily recruiting sometimes because they fit into their schemes or they fit the definition of what they see as a recruitable athlete, multi-sport athlete with a diverse background off of the field as well. So they have a mold that they're trying to recruit to, and I think you just have to give that time to see how that bears out. That's why I'm really interested in 2025 for Tech, not only to see how well the team plays, but to see how well they've recruited. As a recruiting nerd, that's what I'm into, right? Yes. To say which guys panned out, which guys didn't.
And how they all fit in.
Well, you can't learn about it until they have it on the field. And that changes every year. Something changes in recruiting. Well, Texas Tech has their own thing going, and this is the year I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I think so too. Big win there for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, able to keep James Blanchard, the football general manager, in Lubbock. Let's move on here.
Let's do it.
So our next headline, we're going to talk about Forney running back Javian Osborne. Yep. He canceled his official visit to Texas this past week, which is funny because I actually put out and you tell me this all of the time. You tell me that recruiting is an ever-changing landscape.
Changes
it can change within minutes.
And you got to witness it yourself.
Got to witness it. Well, twice. One, Javian Osborne cancels it. The whole short was about KJ Edwards, Carthage's running back, and Javian Osborne scheduling official visits to Texas. But then also the news broke that Texas running backs coach Tashard Choice is leaving Texas to go join the Detroit Lions coaching staff. Yep. Which was also huge. I think that probably played a little bit into Javian's decision. Now, he still has a couple of other scheduled visits, official visits. He's going to be in Georgia in April, SMU, Miami, Alabama, and Michigan. So that June 13th weekend, still open for him. Should Texas fans be concerned that he canceled his official visit?
I'm not hitting the panic button if I'm Texas. First and foremost, they've done a tremendous job recruiting running backs underneath of Coach Choice before 100%. He left. So there are some studs on campus already. This is an amazing running back year in the Lone Star State. We have 4 running backs rated within the top 10 prospects right now. Tredarian Ball from Texas High, KJ Edwards from Carthage, Jonathan Hatton from Cibolo Steel, and Javian Osborne from Forney. 4 in the top 10. 40% of the top 10 are running backs. Should tell you everything you need to know about the landscape of that position in this cycle in the Lone Star State. But Texas doesn't have to recruit locally. They've established themselves as a national program, especially at that position. What I would say if I'm like talking to a Texas fan specifically is don't worry about it right now, because you have to wait and see who they will hire first and foremost, what type of running back that coach will want to recruit. And Osborne could certainly schedule a visit again to see Texas. These recruits can take as many official visits as they want now.
Right.
Back in the olden days, it was 5 official visits. Now with new NCAA recruiting rules, they can take as many official visits as they want. So just because he canceled that visit really doesn't mean anything in the grand scope of his recruitment, except for that he canceled that visit, and he did that because there is no running backs coach in place.
Right. Well, and I'll also point this out too. He's a running back, but he can also catch passes in the backfield.
Oh, he's a tremendous receiver out of the backfield. But he can catch balls, but I just want to make sure he's a running back.
He's a running back,
who
but
can
he
catch
can
balls.
catch balls. But I think that's what he liked about Steve Sarkisian and Texas is the open playbook, and then the running backs coach being able to utilize backs in the run and pass game. So again, I kind of agree with you. I don't think we should push the panic button yet, but definitely something to keep your eye on here as he's
I thought Texas led for him. I know Michigan has got some predictions behind it, or some crystal,
I saw that,
some crystal balls behind it too. But I thought Texas was in a very good place in his recruitment. So even though Michigan's right in the thick of it, I thought that Texas was right in the thick of the race as well, and that I would have actually hedged my bets to betting on Osborne committing to Texas. So this is monumental recruiting news. I just don't know if it's time to hit the panic button.
Right. Well, and it's Texas. They're going to hire somebody great at that running back
for
position.
Sure. Yeah,
anyways, I'm not worried about that.
Sure, they'll be fine.
So no need to push the panic button yet. Just have it right there, just in case. All right, let's move on to our next headline. We've got a couple more here before we move on. Powers, I'm really tired. Okay. Do you want me to tell you why?
You tell me. I got an idea, but you tell me.
We currently have 276,
maybe
275 class of 2026 prospect player profiles up on TexasFootball.com/recruiting for the class of 2026. I went through a lot of them. You went through a lot of them.
All of them.
We've named 50 new 3-stars and 10 new 4-stars. So it's been a busy past couple of weeks for us here.
And I think this is a good time to tell the fans how the prospect rankings work at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. The top 5 highest rated players in any given cycle, those are the DCTF 5-stars. So 5 stars in any given recruiting class. And in 2026, even though we have named a top 5, we haven't awarded any 5-star prospects yet in 2026. The next 45 prospects after that, which would make up the top 50, all 4-star prospects. So the top 50 are 4 and 5-star prospects, with the top 5 being the 5-stars.
Right.
So to be a 4-star at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, you have to be rated within the top 50, and then the 3 stars are outside of the top 50.
Right. So with that being said, we wanted to point out a specific player that you named 3-star.
Okay. 1 of 50.
Quarterback, Kaleb Maryland.
Okay.
At North Shore. Another Caleb, spelled the same way with a K under center there.
Another Caleb under center at North Shore.
Dual threat quarterback sitting at 6 foot, 183 pounds. He holds 6 offers from Utah, Washington State, UNLV, UTEP, Prairie View A&M, and Oklahoma Baptist, and he has an official visit scheduled to Utah this summer. Looking at his tape here, what do you like a lot about Kaleb Maryland?
Well, Caleb came into the Next Level Athlete Top 100 showcase in Houston in January and walked out with QB MVP honors. So the thing that jumped out to me watching him in person was his quick trigger and spin rate. He can really get the ball out quick and put some power on it. I really was impressed with his accuracy in the short and intermediate pass game.
Yes.
With being able to put the right touch and the right zip, that's a tough combination to master, and I feel like Kaleb Maryland comes by it very, very naturally. And what I love about Maryland is the moxie that he carries himself with. He's a confident thrower. He's a guy who's not afraid to press the action and put the ball into tight windows. And following Caleb Bailey at North Shore, who was, I believe, a day one freshman varsity starter at North Shore, those are tough shoes to fill.
100%.
But I think North Shore has a chance to be better with Maryland under center on offense than what they were last year, even though they have a lot of things to replace. Like Quanell Farrakhan has moved on to the next level. Caleb Bailey is gone. They had a couple of big offensive linemen who are now gone. DeAndre Hardiman's gone to Rice. So Caleb Maryland will be the center of that offense this year. It'll kind of revolve around him, and he will go as far as they can take him. Lucky for North Shore fans, I think that's pretty far. Maryland's the real deal.
I think so too. He kind of, like you said, kind of reminds you a lot of Caleb Bailey there in a sense. But when you look around the district too, the District of Doom down there in Houston, I mean, you're going to need a guy who's got that experience and who can step up to the plate, because that's a tough district week in and week out. And you look at Atascocita, I mean, they're returning a lot too, like Carter Yates there at quarterback. So it's going to be some tough shoes to fill. But I think Caleb Maryland is absolutely the guy to take the place.
Their run through Region 3 in the playoffs, too, is always it's brutal.
Yeah,
that's a brutal run every single year. But when I look out there and see my offense, if I'm a head coach or an offensive coordinator, I'm pretty happy to see a guy like Caleb Maryland being my leader, because I think he's somebody that you can depend on that'll lead that team with the right swag, is the best way to explain it. I think they'll be good.
The best swag.
Yeah,
I like it.
Go.
We'll take it. All right, last headline to get to real quick. Really like this headline.
Okay.
Felix Ojo.
Okay, big man.
Lake Ridge 2026 offensive tackle has dropped his official visit schedule. He plans to visit Ole Miss April 18th, Ohio State May 30th, Michigan June 6th, Texas June 13th, and Oklahoma June 20th. And they just hired a new general manager, I saw on Twitter today. So
breaking
big
news
things coming from Oklahoma.
Breaking news out of OU. Looking at Ojo's recruitment, first off, I want to say thanks to Ojo for doing so well at the UA camp. We named him the number 2 player in the state like 2 days before or 3 days before the UA camp, and then he went out
and then he showed out.
He was like the consensus MVP.
Yeah.
And he also got elevated to the number 1 prospect in On3.com's recruiting rankings in the Lone Star State. So he is the number 1 player in at least one national service. So Ojo's like a legit 5-star type of offensive tackle who is considering, as you named, some very elite programs. Talking with him after the UA camp, the sense I got is like 2 schools that you have to watch no matter what till the end, and that's Texas and Ohio State. And he said Texas and Ohio State have been the most consistent teams in my recruitment. Texas has been steady since day one, and Ohio State has made me feel like a priority despite the coaching change. And that coaching change was, of course, Justin Fry leaving Ohio State to go on to the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL. So even though Texas has had some coaching changes as well, not with KJ Flood, who's recruiting Ojo. So I'm like, those are the 2 schools I'm watching closely. And if I had to like hedge my bets, I'd hedge them towards Texas. It's an in-state school. They didn't land Michael Fasusi down the home stretch last year. So there's a clear-cut need at offensive tackle there for Texas. So that's something that I'm monitoring very closely.
Maybe he's going to go join Michael Fasusi at Oklahoma.
He could. He's got an official visit, and Fasusi's going to be able to get his pitch on. I guarantee you that Fasusi hosts him on that visit.
Well, and I really liked too about that article is that a program that may not necessarily be on anyone's radar, but he's not shutting the door on, is Colorado. Deion Sanders. I kind of like that a lot.
I'm going to take credit for that question. That was one that I threw out there. I was like, hey, there's always like this one school that comes out like in June that no one's talking about that ends up being a contender. Who could that school be for you, or what school would that be for you? And he said Colorado, that he's got a good relationship with Deion Sanders, and that's a school to at least watch, even though that he hasn't spoken about them as much, that we should keep that in our back pocket and at least monitor it. We'll see. We'll have to see. They didn't make the official visit list yet.
Right.
So
it's gonna be a fun recruitment regardless.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, do you know about another offensive tackle in the DFW area that also has an Ohio State official visit scheduled?
I think I know one. I know that you know one.
You tell them.
Drew Evers
from Flower Mound,
who has more than 40 scholarship offers.
He is an absolute dude. And we got to go to Flower Mound. Actually, me, myself, Greg Powers, and Sam Moore back there in the control room got to go to Flower Mound and have a sit-down exclusive 20-minute interview with Flower Mound 2026 offensive tackle Drew Evers. And before we get into this, I just want to say, man, what a great interview, because he is such a well-spoken guy. It's like he's done this before a million times, right?
Yeah.
When you watch the interview, now I should preface this, the interview that you're about to see is only about 8 minutes long. We had to cut it down.
It's the highlights.
I yap too much, so we had to cut it down. This is the Cliff Notes, but if you want to see the full interview, we'll post it on YouTube later today. There will be an article out on txhsfb.com/recruiting, but here's just a little taste of what Flower Mound offensive tackle Drew Evers is all about and what he's thinking when it comes to his recruitment process. So, you have started for 3 years now at Flower Mound, the Jaguars. Talk to me a little bit about that and your experience here with this program so far.
Well, yeah, I've been around this program for a long time, with my brother coming up through here. So I've been around this program and around this coaching staff for over 6 years. But yeah, no, playing under Coach Basil's been a delight for sure, to say the least. But, being here for 3 years and, seeing the success that I've had and, how much I've enjoyed myself and how much I've grown and how much I've learned is truly a blessing for sure.
Well, and that kind of leads me to my next question. You already mentioned your brother, Nick, who went through the program as well, played quarterback here and is now at UConn. And you kind of got to see him go through the recruiting process, the same process that you're going through right now. What is the biggest thing that he has taught you, not only as a football player going through this same recruitment process that you did, but maybe as a brother as well?
Yeah, so he's taught me a lot, and I've also learned a lot from my brother's recruitment, and I've applied that to mine. But yeah, I've definitely learned what matters most and what you should definitely look for. Look for relationships.
Absolutely.
Because that's the biggest thing, and that's been my biggest takeaway from his recruitment. And that's kind of what I tried to apply to mine. So I try to build a genuine relationship and, get a genuine feel for the coaching staff before I decide to pull a trigger. You know what I mean? So that's what I've been doing.
Talk to me a little bit about what makes you such a special player. Now, obviously, you're pretty versatile on the offensive front there, playing a little bit of tackle, a little bit of guard. Talk to me a little bit about what makes you stand out above the rest.
Yeah, I feel like my athleticism definitely plays a part into how versatile I am. I'm not like 6'8", 6'7" type of offensive lineman where I have to play on the outside because I'm not small or I can't bend well enough to play interior. So, and I wouldn't say I'm too short to play outside either, and when I talk to these coaches, most of these coaches, they see me as a tackle. They see me as a tackle who has the ability to come inside as well because I'm stout enough and I'm strong enough and I'm athletic enough to play in the interior. And same thing with the outside. I'm long enough, like my arms are probably just under 34 inches or 34 flat. My hands are around 10 inches. I pride myself in having, really, really fast feet and being really, really athletic. So yeah, that kind of just plays to how versatile I am, my athleticism and my length. And also what I'm trying to do is get my knowledge of the game right, because the biggest thing, that's really, really important. The biggest thing that some of these coaches tell me, they'll be like, yeah, so whenever these people come in, whenever these recruits come in, they're physically ready. They're physically ready. I was talking to Brad Davis, the LSU offensive line coach, and I was telling him some of my strength numbers, for clean, squat, and bench and all that. And he was like, just with your numbers now, you'd be in the top 25% of the offensive line room right now. So you're physically ready to go in there. It's just the mental aspect. And I think that's what I'm trying to emphasize, especially this offseason. And I think that's going to play a big part in how successful I am early in my career at the next level. And then Texas A&M, you've also scheduled an official visit for. So kind of the same thing. Talk to me about what makes the Aggies so special. And maybe obviously being an in-state program helps a little bit. Yeah. So, like you said, being in-state program is pretty appealing. Geographical location isn't necessarily what I'm gonna commit to a school for, but it is kind of cool to think about. I don't need to jump on a plane and go 2.5, 3 hours across the country
Right.
when I could just drive 3 hours and make it really easy. But for my family and my grandmother and all that stuff, it makes it pretty appealing. But also, both my parents are alums. You know, they both went there.
That helps a little bit, right?
Some of my aunts and uncles, they both went there as well.
So did you grow up going to Kyle Field?
I did.
At those, I've never, that's on my bucket list, but that atmosphere, that's pretty electric.
It's second to none. Yeah, like I went there for the Notre Dame game this year. I think it was the first game.
Yep, that's right.
It was one of the loudest game experiences I think I've ever had.
Can you imagine like playing in that? You know, not only being a fan, but playing in that atmosphere. How cool would that be?
It would be insane. Like playing in an atmosphere like that, I would find it so hard to hear the clap or hear the snap count or hear the cadence. Like that would be so difficult. But I mean, I would much rather be the home team than the opposing team because hey, they're brutal out there. Like I heard, like right above me, there was people like the fans were cussing out the Notre Dame fans that are right next to them.
Passionate.
They're very, very passionate to say the least, for sure.
Well, and speaking of in-state programs, you also scheduled an official visit just right down the road here to SMU. Talk to me about what makes the Pony so special.
My relationship with Coach Lashley, Coach Foster, Coach Justice, they were one of my first offers.
Okay, awesome.
And they've remained a school that has been recruiting me hard. You know, they know what they're talking about, so they're credible. And obviously they went to the 12-team playoffs this year. They had a really, really good year.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love everything about SMU. I love the education. I love the campus. I love the football. I love the new facility. The new facility that just opened is awesome. It's like $100 million or $150 million.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. And I like how convenient everything is in there. Like the weight room is right next to the training room. Training room's right next to the locker room. Locker room's right above the meeting room or right below the meeting room. So it's like all right there. You don't have to go across the facility to go to the equipment room or go to the practice field. So it's all right there.
So it sounds like you got a couple of busy months coming up here a little bit. Any other official visits that you've scheduled so far?
So I think I have LSU in the works right now. We're still trying to figure out the
details and stuff,
details and the dates and all that stuff, trying to get those all set out. And same thing with Clemson. I'm thinking I'm probably gonna head down there for a spring practice, maybe see how I like it down there, and then because all these campuses, I've been to all these campuses already, but I want to get down to Clemson first to kind of check things out there, and then if I like it enough, we'll do an official visit there. But I'm actually not offered by Clemson just yet because their process is a little bit different.
Right.
So I think when I go down there, I have a good feeling they might offer, I hope, because that'll be a really, really good spot to go to, Clemson. My brother was really, really adamant about me going out to see Clemson. He says that was one thing he wished he had the opportunity to do, or he wished he did. And I'm taking his word for it because he was serious in his tone. Normally, if he's joking, I'll be able to tell, but he sounded very, very serious. And I was like, okay, well, if this is really a spot that you think is worth checking out, I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna trust you because you're older, you've been through it. So I'm gonna go see Clemson this spring. And if I like it enough, we're gonna pull the trigger on the official visit.
Well, and you'd be protecting a former Texas high school football player as well, in Cade Klubnik at quarterback there. So those Texas high school football ties.
My brother and Cade are actually really, really good friends.
Well, that's right. Were they in the same class, right?
Same class.
Quarterback class.
They both went to the Elite 11 together.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but no, they're really, really good friends. And Nick told me, he was like, hey, like, go see Cade, go see Clemson, see how you like it. And if you like it, pull the trigger and do the OV, and you won't regret it, is what he told me. And that. He said, if you don't like it, you don't like it, but at least you won't have to commit to a school without, being assured that you wouldn't like another school. You know what I mean? So I'm taking his advice.
Well, we're super excited to watch you go through this process and really appreciate you taking the time and sitting down with us, and hopefully we can be a part of your special day at some point.
Of course. Yes, thank you.
Joined out here by Hayden Gunner at Denton High School. Man, it's a big day for you. You got your decision coming right now.
After a lot of thinking, with the family talking, stressing out.
Let's see exactly where Malik Hawkins is going to be heading.
First off, I want to start by thanking God. Without him, I wouldn't be anything. I wouldn't be blessed with all these opportunities.
Got 5 schools he's choosing between. We're about to find out who it's going to be.
Got your teammates, coaches, family, friends surrounding you, so you couldn't have a bigger stage right here to announce it on.
So without further ado, we're going to go to the man right here, Kobe Foreman.
Who's it going to be?
I will be attending.
I'll be committed to the University of Oklahoma.
University of Texas A&M.
Stanford University.
The University of Oklahoma.
Diego.
Man, how about that live commitment commercial created by our very own producer, Sam Moore? What I like about that commercial is it very clearly states that you, a Texas high school football recruit, prospect, whatever, if you want to commit live on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Airways, Texan Live, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, we'll put you everywhere. You are absolutely more than welcome to do so. We can have you commit here, live
right
in the
here,
studio.
literally right here.
Like you can sit right here or right there, and you can bring your friends, you can bring your family members, you can bring nobody. We'll be here to cheer you on if that's what you want, or we can also come to you and your school if you decide you want to commit in front of all of your other friends, teachers, classmates.
For a grand total cost of free, it's free.
$0. We just want to help you make your day as special as possible. So you can reach out to myself at Mallory Hartley or Greg Powers at GPowerScout on Twitter and get in contact with us if you want to commit live on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Airways.
How about that interview with Drew Evers? He's impressive, isn't he?
He's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
He's a top-tier offensive lineman in the state.
You can see why he's got a laundry list of offers. So I'm going to be interested to see where he goes. I think we heard more about Texas A&M and SMU, too, the in-state schools, and the 8-minute segment that we put out there. I actually didn't know about the close family connection with Texas A&M.
I didn't either. I got to drag that out of him a little bit while I was interviewing him. But he's got a couple of other official visits. Funny enough, the day that we went to, which was last Tuesday, to Flower Mound to go interview him, he scheduled an official visit to Penn State that same day, earlier that day. But of course, he has another official visit scheduled to LSU, Ohio State. He's got Clemson there on his radar, like you heard. He's got that kind of Texas high school football connection there with Cade Klubnik at quarterback. But that's another kind of recruitment like Felix Ojo that I'm just really interested to keep an eye on to see where he fits best. Obviously, from the interview, you heard that he loves the atmosphere at Kyle Field. He loves that SMU is close and nearby. His family's going to be able to support him right down the road in Dallas. But no matter where he goes, I think he's going to thrive. He's just kind of that offensive lineman. He's kind of fluid, like you heard in the interview. He's a special player. I'm excited to see where he goes. Very versatile. Can kind of play at any point on the line there.
Position flexibility, I think, makes him an early contributor in college, and that's why he'll rate very highly in the Dave Campbell's rankings, is because I think he has a chance to come in and be a day one guy. And that's offensive line, I would say. I mean, quarterback's also really tough. Believe it or not, wide receiver is really tough.
Yeah.
But offensive line is one of those spots where you have to have the strength and power to come in and be a day one guy. I think Drew Evers has that already, but he's also got the experience and the high football IQ that I think that his coaches will be looking for. He's got to understand that playbook to be able to get on the field as a freshman. I think Evers has a chance to do it.
You know who else is a day one guy?
Well, I think that I know who you're going to say because I have the rundown.
It's none other than our very own Carter Yates. Here with a new segment that we created called Here's a Guy. And what I think is really special about this segment is that you can only really find this on a show like Dave Campbell's Rising. It's kind of about an under-the-radar type player that might not have any FBS or offers at all.
Texas teams, Texas talents. You're only going to hear about these guys here. Yep. And nobody better to do it than Carter Yates in the ball-talking zone. Here's a guy.
Here's a guy with Carter Yates, and he's going to be talking about Alvarado running back Demarcus Belton.
Attention Texas high school football fans, here's a guy with 0 Division I scholarship offers that you're going to see in 2 years on Saturdays on your TV. I'm talking about Alvarado, rising senior running back Demarcus Belton. Now Alvarado went 4 rounds deep last year, and while quarterback Carter Yates got a lot of the headlines, Demarcus Belton as the district offensive MVP was just as critical to that team's success, and I saw it firsthand at the second round playoff game against Frisco Panther Creek, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about him since. Guys, the stats speak for themselves. 173 carries for over 1,800 yards. That's over 10.5 yards per carry for those keeping track at home. And you see with 573 receiving yards, he is just as much of a threat in the pass game as he is the run game. Now, Casey Walraven, the Alvarado head coach, is an alum of the high school. And when he saw Demarcus Belton coming into high school as a defensive lineman, he found out that his uncles were Alton Houston, a legendary running back from the 90s that still gets talked about to this day, and Tyler Bates, a former running back who actually got drafted in the MLB by the Los Angeles Angels after a career at East Texas Baptist University, and said, man, if you're half as good as your uncles, we're going to be just fine. And just fine they have been. Guys, he's got everything you want to see in a Division I running back. 5'11", 200 pounds, a 10.9 100-meter dash time, which is only going to get faster with another offseason of work. And I see, as I said, just as good of a threat in the passing game as he is the rushing game. Let me tell you about some of the schools after him right now. East Texas Baptist, of course, has been all over him. And North Texas and Texas Tech are schools poking around but have not offered yet. It's a really packed class for running backs, but Demarcus Belton's going to get his name called on National Signing Day come next year. I can guarantee you that. Now let's dive into the film and see what's got me so excited. All right, guys, this is the most impressive run I've seen on Demarcus Belton's tape. I'm gonna play it all the way through and then go back and rewind, stop at a few critical points so y'all can really see why this is so impressive. Here he takes the ball, play looks dead in the backfield, wiggles out of 4 defenders, then finishes that run physical. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders in the backfield. Cartier Collar is doing the surrender cobra right now at QB. This play is deader than dead, except Demarcus Belton breaks out of it right there and then finishes that run physical. Run that guy over. Now, you know this physical running style is why I love Belton so much. He shows it off again right here. Same thing, shotgun, send a man in motion, take the snap, cut up in the backfield, get out of the way, ref, damn! And he bounces off and goes to the end zone. Let's replay that right here. So you see, guys, this cut sticks that foot in the ground, gets north and south, comes down the field again. Look how many defenders are around this guy, including the referee. He will run anybody over, even the zebra, and bounces off and go makes a play in the end zone. Now, you know in college football today, as a running back, you have to be just as good catching the ball. And at Alvarado, Demarcus Belton has gotten plenty of practice. They will split him out wide as a wide receiver, and he gives the best one-on-one looks of anyone, Coach Walraven says. But they also like to run this shark wheel out of the backfield, and that's where he's really dynamic. So you see here in the red zone, Demarcus Belton's gonna run a shark wheel in the end zone and lays out the extension, gets that ball. That's what I love. He catches it with his hands. He's not a body catcher, guys. Watch this play again. Look at the effort right here. Fully horizontal, full Odell Beckham extension. It's what you love to see. All right, guys, same concept right here with this out of the backfield wheel route. This time it's gonna be a much larger, longer touchdown for Demarcus Belton. Let's roll the tape. You see, he comes out right here, gets upfield, flashes that same north-south rushing ability, and then turns on the burners. This is where you see the sub 11-second speed right there. I'm gonna rewind this, okay, because there's a couple interesting things about this play right here. First off, watch him get upfield, north-south. Bam, right? Leaves everybody in the dust. Now he's wide open. Cartier hits him. Demarcus, he fights the ball a little bit, okay? Needs to have a little bit softer hands here. That's a small critique, though. It doesn't go in the stat sheet if you caught the ball pretty. It only goes in the stat sheet, catching a touchdown right here. But you see, he comes actually at the safety. And if you take a look at the screen grab, he should not score on this play if this safety has the angle on him right here. And instead, sticks that foot in the ground once again, gets 0 to 100 so fast, goes in for a touchdown right there. Guys, I love Demarcus Belton's tape, and I know there's a lot of colleges out there that like it too. I talked to one G5 player personnel staffer, and he said Demarcus Belton is without a doubt a G5 football player at the bare minimum. So you heard it here first on Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Here's a guy that's going to play college football on Saturdays.
Thanks, Carter.
Let's go.
It's the intro that gets me every time.
Here you go, college coaches. This is why you tune into the show. He's a guy.
Well, and I remember
can ball.
I remember the day that Carter found Demarcus Belton and his tape for Here's a Guy, our first one, obviously. And he stood up straight, looked at you, and I said, I got my Here's a Guy. Demarcus Belton, we threw his tape on the big board, and we loved it. We loved it. He's a guy.
Film watching days in the office are always like one of the best days.
So
it's
fun.
like where I get to bring everybody into the office into like our world.
Yeah.
It's like,
and we're sitting there like this, and we're like, huh? He looks good. Oh, look at that speed, that burst of speed. No, it's so much fun. I love
film watching day. We got to make sure all the coworkers know who all the top prospects are, so when they hear us rambling on about these guys in the office, like they actually know. Like we're talking about legit people. Like, oh, whenever I say the name Drew Evers, you're going to know who that is because I'm going to make you watch Drew Evers all the time.
Yes.
So
it kind of brings you guys into our world.
Sorry, coworkers, but we're going to watch tape here.
Anyways, thanks, Carter, for our first Here's a Guy segment on Dave Campbell's Rising. All right, Powers, you ready to round this thing out?
Let's do it.
With a team spotlight? We're going to be talking about the Port Arthur Memorial Titans. And like I mentioned earlier, this is a program that always seems to have a plethora of FBS dudes. So they went 8-4 this year under the helm of Brian Morgan, who's been there for a while. Fantastic coach.
Thanks to Coach Morgan for helping us prep for this segment, by the way. They do a tremendous job down there.
Yes. We're going to talk about 7 guys here that have kind of stood out to us. They graduated a few. I think most notably, defensive lineman Michael Riles from Oklahoma State. Wide receiver Samaj Pierre, he's going to Rice. And then defensive tackle Tavion Chapman, who's going to Houston Christian. So a lot of key guys that that have graduated and moved on to play at the next level. But I would argue that this upcoming class is the same, if not more impressive.
This is their money class. It's been their money class. I didn't get to watch PA Memorial last year. I watched them in the playoffs against Forney at the end of the 2023 season, and that's where this class of 2026 guys, they were really starting to come into their own, led by linebacker Tank King.
Tank King's a dude.
I love Tank King. Tank King has, I think he's got over 30 scholarship offers already, or right at 30 scholarship offers, been offered by all the top teams. What I love about King's game is that he's kind of, to me, been a throwback style linebacker. He was a day one varsity starter as a freshman, a guy that kind of walked through the doors there and established himself as one of like the marquee names in that area in Texas high school football. But he's advanced his game because he reads and reacts very well. He gets off of blocks very naturally, has strong hands, and when he arrives at the ball carrier, he arrives at the ball carrier with bad intentions. Mm-hmm. And I love to see a linebacker when they hit somebody on tape, you can almost feel it through the tape. And I think that that's pretty much a prerequisite. If you're going to be a P4 level linebacker, when you tackle somebody, it has to be bone jarring.
Right.
It can't just be like, going out there and tapping somebody. Tank King epitomizes bone jarring tackler, and I love that about his game. On the recruiting front, King has got some really intriguing options, and we're going to start in-state. He's got an official visit scheduled with Texas A&M for June 5th, and he's got an official visit scheduled with Texas on June 13th. And I'm also keeping a close eye on Notre Dame. That's a school that I think has a legit shot at landing his service as well, so it'll be interesting to see when he visits South Bend and if the Fighting Irish, underneath of Marcus Freeman, who too was one of the game's best linebackers when he was playing. So I imagine that Coach Freeman has a pretty good pitch in store for Tank King whenever he arrives there to check out the Irish.
You want to talk about another King? Not related. Completely unrelated. No relation to Tank King there, but it's 2026 cornerback Brock King.
Yep.
5'10", 178 pounds, 20-plus offers from the big-time guys. No official visits scheduled yet. I looked at his social media, hasn't posted anything. 247 hasn't posted anything. But I really liked his tape when I watched him. He's listed as a corner. I think he's got great qualities to be a corner. He's got good footwork, and he stays glued to his man, whoever he's covering there at the time. And he just kind of gives receivers a really, really tough time. But what I also like about him is that not only does he play corner, but he plays a little bit of running back too. And he plays on KOR and punt return as well. So very versatile. I like that a lot about him.
I love him because he's quiet. And when I say quiet, I mean you don't hear anything from Brock King because teams don't want to throw at him. And whenever I throw a corner out there and I think, I'm going to throw this guy out at corner and nobody's going to throw on that side of the field, as a coach, that gives me a certain level of comfortability. And when I have Tank King in the middle of the field, they're not really wanting to run at Tank King, and they're not really wanting to throw at whatever side I put Brock King on.
This defense is scary, man.
And last year they had Michael Riles coming off the edge and Tavon Chapman. But anyway, all right, to get back on track of Brock King, he's a quiet, confident cornerback who you don't hear a lot of because all he does is lock down his side of the field. That's why, as you mentioned, it is fun to get to see him go and play some of these other positions because you get to see his athleticism and his special qualities. Talking with our sources over at this one's wide open. Like, this is a recruitment that's wide open right now. Anything could still happen. He's got some of the top dogs on him. Some of the top programs are in the mix, and it'll be interesting to see where ultimately he lands because I feel like he is in the thick of one of these dynamic recruitments where you have, a school like Texas who's a top dog on your list that's, one of the top programs in the country. And how their recruiting puzzle fits with you and how you fit with them. It'll be interesting to see how all that unfolds for Brock King because he could play. He's visited Texas an awful lot, so that's one of the programs. Baylor in-state is another school to keep an eye on, but, he's got, like, a national offer list. So just interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the Kings there.
Yeah, no relation.
No relation. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball. We'll start here with 2026 offensive tackle Michael Milson. 6'4", 270 pounds. Really, really great frame there. And what I liked about his huddle tape, he's listed as a tackle, obviously, but I think he's also has that fluidity to where he can play a little bit of guard too. He's flexible there on the line. Really strong hands, and I just really like the way that he plays. Yeah,
extremely athletic, and that's the first thing that jumped out to me. You mentioned his frame. Like, he's a first off the bus type of kid. Even as a sophomore, when I watched him live, like, you clearly noticed Milson right away. Riles was super impressive too, the defensive end who went to Oklahoma State from the 2025 class. But Milson was just like I just started snapping photos of him like instantly. I was like, oh well, I didn't know who he was. I didn't have my roster yet.
Like, that's a big dude. I'm gonna take some pics.
You knew instantly sometimes when you see him. I didn't know that he was a sophomore, so I was happy to find out that he was a young player. Another guy whose recruitment that I feel like is kind of wide open. Two programs I feel like to keep an eye on that have offered so far, at least in my estimation, are Baylor and Kansas in the Big 12. I think maybe in this region, the Big 12 region or the Texas region, I would watch programs in that area for Milson.
Well, he's got an offer from Houston too as well.
Yeah,
I think so. A couple of Big 12 programs, especially in-state Big 12 programs, to keep your eye on there.
No doubt about it.
Michael's recruitment. All right, we'll talk about some skill players here a little bit. Let's start with 2026 running back Amonte Martin. And you told me yesterday, and I also looked this up too. I read some articles, so I thought it was super interesting. But he is the brother of Cam Martin, who was a former Auburn running back coach and is now an assistant coach at UCF, I believe. 5'11 and a half, 185 pounds. He's got quick feet and really good change in sudden direction. Like, he'll be heading straight one way through the pile, but then, a defender comes up and he's easily able to steer into a different direction on his feet and kind of create an open.
I wanted to
pathway
check
for
our
himself.
Cam Martin facts because coaching changes happen so fast and furious during this time
I
of year.
know. No, you're
like
right.
I wanted to make
You're
sure
right.
that so I don't want to date myself, but I rated Cam Martin when he was coming out of PA Memorial.
You just dated yourself.
I dated myself somewhat. I also dated myself when I tweeted out video tape that I filmed of 07 Gilmer versus Mineola tape. That was the first night I met UTSA head coach Jeff Traylor, and shout out to Gilmer who served chili in the press box that night. But getting back to Amonte Martin, Amonte is completely different than Cam. I would have described Cam as more of a running back who liked to put you on skis, and Martin has some of that ability, but he is a guy who will flat out run you over. He's tough in the middle of the field. You saw that on his first highlight run as he scored a touchdown right up the middle, and he loves to live there. He slides in and out of tackles pretty effortlessly, has a natural feel for the game, and I think that gives him a competitive edge. He shows glimpses at times that he can completely take games over, and we talked about a loaded running back year. Amonte Martin definitely helps shine the spotlight on that because he's a 3-star right now that could be rated as a 4-star type of kid. He has all the skills in the world and has a lot of top colleges chasing him.
And he's got a couple of official visits scheduled, one at Oklahoma State, June 19th.
That'd be a great fit.
I think so, too. The next Ollie Gordon, am I saying?
Yeah.
Kansas State on May 29th, and then Tulsa on June 6th. I believe that was his most recent scheduled visit.
Yeah, and even when I close my eyes and think about, like, you said those, like, he seems like the Kansas State, Oklahoma State type of running back that people may sleep on ever so slightly. They shouldn't because he's got a name and he's like a known commodity, but goes and blows it out of the water once he gets to college at one of those types of schools.
Correct. Moving on here, let's talk about 2026 wide receiver Kevin Roberts. I actually got to talk about him a couple weeks ago when I was talking to Houston.
Committed to Houston.
6'4", 175 pounds. He's really long and lanky. When you look at his tape, like, he kind of has that build of a basketball player.
Well, he is a basketball player.
He is a basketball player. You look at his huddle tape, and it's all basketball right now. But what I think is really interesting about him from the tape that I have seen is that obviously he uses his height to his advantage, and he can high point that ball and win those 50-50 battles.
Coaches there are extremely excited about his potential and what he's already displayed within their offense. When you have a 6'4" guy that you can put in the vertical passing game, you can kind of just throw it up to him and let him go and make plays. And I think that as he gains experience and gets in a college strength and conditioning program, he's one of these guys with an extremely high ceiling. And I think that's why you see the Houston Cougars taking an early commitment from him. And I think that's something to really tell recruiting fans that are watching this show, maybe for the first time, the difference between what a offer is and what a committable offer is. A committable offer means that you can pick up the phone, call that school, and make a commitment right now to that program. And obviously Roberts was in a position to do that with UH. Schools are taking a little bit less high school talent out of each class now. So where it used to be you think about a school signing in between 20 and 25 guys, I think right now you got to think about it being around 15 guys for most schools in any given year because they will leave some space for the transfer portal. So Roberts obviously sat very high on the UH recruiting board, and it's because of that athleticism and upside. He could be a true freak, a guy that develops into an NFL draft pick one day.
I think so too. And man, if Houston can also keep Keyshawn Henderson too, they're building a quite
it's a good
fun 2026 class so far.
It's a good recruiting class. Aaron Wolford from Port Neches Groves, I love him.
Great offensive lineman. He is so much fun to watch. But all right, let's keep the trains on the tracks here. We'll talk about some younger guys. Class of 2027, safety Demarcus Hudson, 6'3", 180 pounds. He's been offered by UCF, Sacramento State,
there you
UNLV, and Lamar. Man, Sacramento State.
Shout out to Sac State.
Shout out to Sac State, man. And Brennan Marion, too, their head coach there. He's got some Texas ties, but they are recruiting Texas so heavy right now. And one of the guys that they've most recently offered is Demarcus Hudson.
Yeah. They said he's got next. And whenever you tell me that and you're at PA Memorial, that's all I need to know. Because you watch his tape or pop it on and you can see that he is kind of like as advertised. He's one of these guys who I feel like his recruitment is about to take off in a huge way in the spring evaluation period. He is like the mold. You break the mold when you make a safety like with his attribute. So I'm excited to see what the spring holds for him.
I think so too. One more 2027 kid we want to talk about, offensive tackle Brandon Hebert.
Yep.
I remember to say his name correctly.
6'4", 270, and an
sophomore.
Extremely high ceiling on Hebert. You're not going to find his tape on his huddle or anything like that. You're going to have to go out if you're a college coach and see him in person. And I'm going to hedge my bets if you do that you're going to make an offer. So go on out and book your trip with Coach Morgan to go see PA Memorial this spring.
Did you see, do you know how long his wingspan is?
You tell us. This sounds like Hartley breaking news.
85 inches.
Wow. And that's why the coaches said when coaches come through here, they're going to offer him right away.
He's a big dude.
That's awesome.
He's a big dude. So
see, look at you uncovering a recruiting gem right there.
You know me, always uncovering the recruiting gems here. Little crew. But yeah, we're super pumped to keep our eyes on Port Arthur Memorial. They've got just a ton of dudes every single year, but this class seems kind of special. So I'm sure they'll be just fine.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch because they're a state championship contender in my estimation with all that talent.
I feel like they always are too because they're in such a great area. You know, like they have they've got tough competition. I mean, with Galveston Ball and stuff, I believe in their district. But I mean, they're always in a great position to make it to a good point in the playoffs.
Well, and this talent that they've been having there, they're going to be seniors now. Mm-hmm. You know, they've been playing since they were freshmen. They should have good camaraderie together. They've kept that group together. So I'm really excited about what 2025 has in store for them.
I think so too. All right.
I'm excited what 2025 has in store for us too.
It's going to be a great year. It's going to be a great year. And we thank all of you guys for tuning in to the premiere of Dave Campbell's Rising. Remember, a show completely and 100% dedicated to shining the light on Texas high school football prospects all around the Lone Star State. And don't forget, if you want to commit live on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Airways, you can do so. Reach out to me at Mallory Hartley or at Greg G. Powers Scout on Twitter, and let's get something set up. You can come here. We'll go to you. Either way.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make your day special. Thanks again to Drew Evers for taking the time and sitting down with us and you know, kind of giving us an inside look to what his recruitment process looks like. Again, if you want to see the full interview, that will go live on YouTube this afternoon or tonight. We'll create an article, but it'll be up by tomorrow at some point if you want to watch the full 20-minute exclusive interview of Drew Evers. For Carter Yates, for Sam Moore, for VNA Moreno, for Greg Powers, I'm Mallory Hartley, and thanks so much again for tuning in to Dave Campbell's Rising. Now, a little quick programming note here. We're going to be once a month up until to the football season, and then we'll be weekly. We live every single week during the football season, but again, once a month during the off season. So we'll see you in about a month, specifically March 26th for episode 2 of Dave Campbell's Rising.